we're working our way into the solid category, okay? I'm going to start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Solid, okay? Starts with that tackle.
Yeah, it does.
That X factor, that man of steel, Tristan Wirfs, who is just a dancing bear at his position, and a guy that can start or finish any running play. He can start or finish any pass protection. The other guy that I have circled is Grant Barton on the inside, the center. Young stud center. I love a young stud center. Okay, I got to play with Creed Humphrey in Kansas City. The impact when he was a rookie, the impact that these guys have when they show up off the bus and they are with it mentally, physically, spiritually, the room becomes different as a result of you've got the freak show in the back, Tristan Wirfs. He's making more money than God back there in the fourth row of the offensive line. But the guy up front is the rookie, Grant Barton, and as he goes, people follow. Obviously, you've got the departure of Liam Cohen, but this is nothing that this group is a stranger to. They've had changes in the offensive staff before. I like the group. You anchor it with a center and an all-pro left tackle and Tristan Wirfs, Gedeke, and then Ben Bredesen. I'm sure you're going to talk about Ben Bredesen, but this group is in a solid category. These are all solid players.
Again, we talk about it. It's rare to bring the starting five back, and they got Bredesen under contract this year, which was massive for them. So they did lose Robert Hainsey, but again, he had been relegated to kind of like the swing interior offensive lineman last year. Luke Gedeke is a guy that people don't give enough credit to because, to your point, Tristan Wirfs is a top 3 tackle in football, and he gets all the highlights. But Gedeke is a really good player. Cody Mach, though, you talk about a good flow, right, coming out of the back of that helmet. The guy that has some missing teeth up front that can really get after you. And the funny thing is, when Graham Barton came out, they kind of compared Cody Mach to him, right? Or they compared Barton to Cody Mach because he was a guy that had 5 position flexibility. So I love what Liam Cohen did with his offensive line. Again, obviously they're going to be changing offensive coordinators because Liam Cohen.
I just I lost you for a second, Lige. I'm sorry. You were talking about Liam
Cohen
you're
good.
And the new staff for the offense for Tampa Bay. We're going to go to the Vikings now. Okay, so we know that they have the scheme. We know that they have the skill, the scheme and the leadership of Kevin O'Connell, the skilled players in Minnesota. We don't even have to get into those guys. But the offensive line is solid. And it starts with those tackles, in my opinion. Christian Darrisaw, who obviously went down with injury last year, and they had to make roster moves to try to fill in. It didn't really work out the way that they'd want it. He's a great player. When he's in the lineup, he's a guy that I want to go just watch practice. I want to watch him work. He's like a freak show, gets everybody blocked. Brian O'Neill was a guy who hit the ground running for this offensive line, and he's a guy you don't even have to blink about. Obviously, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries. Those are the 2 players that are going to be put into this lineup and asked to just plug and play. I like both those guys, but obviously, health concerns, injury for Fries. He's going to be coming back. The thing that I like is those 2 have played together. I think this group gets even better this year if Christian Darrisaw comes back as himself.
Yeah, this group, to me, and again, we haven't seen him on paper, so I don't mind you putting him in the solid category. I think by the end of the year, this group could be in the elite category. Now, it's going to come down to their young quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, obviously, because the Minnesota Vikings, when you look at them on paper, there's no glaring weaknesses on this entire roster, except for at the quarterback position, which obviously is the most important position. But to your point, Christian Darrisaw, I don't think people realize how big of a loss that was when he went down with an injury. It kind of changed the trajectory of their offense. And we saw that in the playoffs versus the Rams, and we saw it versus Detroit when that offensive line got blitzkrieg. Not only up the middle, but on the edges as well. I mean, Jared Verse, Sam Darnold had to be seeing ghosts again, the way he was just destroying their offensive tackles. So when you look at it, to your point, if Christian Darrisaw comes back and he's the guy he was with Brian O'Neill, who's one of the better right tackles in football, Ryan Kelly and Will Fries already have that continuity for being teammates in Indianapolis the last few years. And then Donovan Jackson is another guy who has flexibility to kick out the tackle if you need him to be. But I believe he can be a Pro Bowl type guard inside. They draft him in the first round to really solidify that offensive line, kind of like what Tennessee did, right? We want to make sure our young quarterback feels protected up front. We don't want him to have to worry about that. We know we got weapons on the outside. So if he's comfortable with our offensive line up front, it'll help in his development a lot.
Okay, so the next team we are going to talk about is the Los Angeles Chargers. All right, and this is kind of a theme now. 2 tackles: Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt. Rashawn Slater was from day one a dude. Joe Alt showed up, and he was one of the best tackles in football immediately. The new guy they got in the building is Mekhi Becton, freshly minted Super Bowl champion Mekhi Becton, who enjoyed a renaissance last year under Coach Stoutland's tutelage and playing alongside some really, really elite players in Philadelphia. He gets to bring what he learned there, and I feel like under Jim Harbaugh and that offensive style, they're going to want to pound the rock. They've got the guys to do it. Bradley Bozeman, Zion Johnson, some question marks there with Zion Johnson and what the future holds for him. But this unit, in my opinion, is very, very solid. There should almost be a very solid category. The Chargers would fit in there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like them. I like you putting them there. But Bradley Bozeman, let's not forget, he was with the Ravens with Greg Roman. So he knows this offense in and out. John Harbaugh, you know his mantra, they want to run the football. We saw Mekhi Becton under the tutelage of Jeff Stoutland, to your point, coming to his own at guard. One thing this team is going to do is be physical up front. And you talked about the question mark with Zion Johnson making the transition from guard to center, which he did some at the Senior Bowl and has had some experience doing. I think it will benefit this offensive line best because we talked about it. We want the best starting 5 out there. And if we can get it where guys are in simpatico or in connected and hip to hip and thinking the same way, that's when we can be special. They do have one of the best bookend tackles when you talk about Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. But that interior 3, I think if they're able to mesh, this team could take another step when it comes to being one of the most dominant offensive lines in football.
Yeah, I mean, you're on this list because of the tackles. If your guards can play up, if your Zion Johnson can play center, then this becomes an elite unit. And one group that went from elite to the top of the solid unit is the Detroit Lions. Taylor Decker still out there. Christian Mahogany is taking over a full-time role at the guard position. Tate Ratledge, I've got penciled in there. Graham Glasgow, obviously, and then the dude, Penei Sewell. You've got 2 tackles who can get it done. One of which who can get it done in a way that nobody else can. You've got a young player in number 69, Tate Ratledge, and while we're talking about flow, bring up the mullet, okay? Tate Ratledge's got a great mullet. He's also got a great RAS score, relative athletic score, which means he's an explosive cat. This is explosive line of scrimmage, and that's what it's been for the Detroit Lions. Don't expect that to change. They're going to go for it on 4th down. They're going to have 6 linemen in there. You're going to see a lot of that. We will see a lot of Tate Ratledge, whether it's at the center position or a swing guy in those heavy situations. But more of the same for the Detroit Lions. They're going to run the football. Jared Goff's going to do a lot of play action stuff. But with their new OC, as we talked about yesterday, I think it was, they're going to be throwing the football a lot more. I think the quick game is going to become really prevalent. So we need to see how this group holds up in quick game more often than the run, and then the play action heavy fakes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question mark. Not only did they lose their offensive coordinator, they lost their defensive coordinator. Now, John Morton was there previously on staff before going to the Denver Broncos. So he knows his offense in and out. And he said, why would I change anything? Obviously, this is one of the most explosive offenses in football. Why not continue doing what we're doing? So most of the concepts will be the same, but we know this, Kyle. Every coordinator kind of wants to have their own handprint on the playbook, whether it's on the offensive or defensive side. But the biggest question is Christian Mahogany. He had a few starts last year. Tate Ratledge. Can those two at guard continue to play at the level that Ragnar and Zeitler played at to make this one of the better offensive lines in football?